Hi, everyone. I am Jason Fila, CPA, and today I'm going to talk to you about the mileage method. So, this is one of the two methods that is allowed by the IRS to use to expense your vehicle for your business. And really, technically, you should have a mileage log for either method that you're using. But in practice, I know a lot of people are just using the mileage method or the mileage log if they're using the mileage method. Although, if you're using the actual method, you should also keep a mileage log, technically, or the IRS would get rid of your. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now and talk to you about the mileage log that you need. So, what do you need to have when you're using a mileage log? Okay, so really there are nine elements of a good mileage log. I'll show you a few examples of different types of mileage logs here that you can use as well. Okay, so the first is it's got to say what the business activity is for all the business mileage. In other words, what's the business purpose, right? So that's kind of a big key. Some people will use their calendar. If you keep a calendar in Outlook, that's fine. Or if you keep a physical calendar, that works great as well. Basically, you just want to be showing this is what you were doing on those days or for those trips. If you're using Mile IQ, you can enter in the business purpose for each one of your business trips as well. Okay, so the second item that is going to be inside of a good mileage log is it's going to categorize every vehicle trip, short or long, a mile or 5 miles or 30 miles. It's going to categorize them into a few different categories. It's not just business versus personal, although if you did that, it would probably be sufficient. But technically, the IRS wants you to have business mileage, investment mileage, like if you have rental real estate, and then personal mileage, or like commuting. All right. So essentially, we want to be able to say, here's the total. The three numbers I'm most concerned about are the total mileage, the business mileage, and personal mileage. Right. But if you can break it out to this level, that's great. If all you do is the total mileage and the business mileage, honestly, that should be sufficient in 99% of cases. Okay, the third aspect of a good mileage log is it's going to answer the question, why don't we see any personal miles on here? Like if you're getting groceries, right? If you only have one vehicle that you own or two, you have one for yourself, one for a spouse, and you're using yours in the business 75% of the time. The IRS can say, well, why don't I see any trips to the grocery store? Why don't I see any trips to, your friends or family or, they're going to expect to see some mileage. Where you tend to get in a lot of trouble with IRS audits is when you are overly aggressive. If it looks like you're not being reasonable and breaking out some personal mileage there, then it's less likely to be respected. Okay, so the fourth aspect of a good mileage log is it's going to track the beginning and ending odometer, if you can, for all vehicle uses, or at the worst, you're tracking on a daily level. So we'd say, okay, beginning miles for the day, beginning odometer for the day, ending odometer for the day. So that, or you could do beginning odometer of this trip, ending odometer of this trip, which is what Mile IQ would do for you. Okay, and obviously it's going to include the date, including the year. It's the destination, it's the address of your customer, your client, or wherever you're going to the CPA, you're going to supply. You're going to get some supplies. Put the destination, the address in there. Again, the purpose of the trip kind of bleeds into number one, and then total mileage. So you're going to subtract the beginning odometer minus ending odometer, and you're going to get your mileage that way. And then any other business-related expenses that you incurred along the way, tolls or parking or whatever. These are going to be separate. These you can take as a deduction, even if you're using the actual method. If you're using and if you're using the mileage method, either method, you get to take these regardless. So I will show you some examples of some mileage logs. You're welcome to email me. I'll send you them. And I will also say that the simplest, for some people, it can be very simple. It can be, I only go to 5 different places throughout the year that I am going to claim, mileage on. And, so I'm going to have a key. Okay. So, let's say I have a home office. That's where I do most of my work. But if you have, let's say you have supplies, I might say, okay, that's going to be S. If you're going to buy supplies, let's say I'm going to talk to my client 1, right? Or let's say I'm going to talk to Bill. He might be a B. So you could keep a physical calendar in your car. And then every time, any day you go and do any of these things, go get supplies, or go talk to Bill, or go meet with Bill, or, you have maybe a few of these, 5 or 10 of these categories. Any of those days you do those things, you just put in an S or a B or whatever. And then, you only have to calculate the mileage to and from these places one time. And at the end of the year, you can just add up how many times, you went to visit Bill, and then send that my way, and that's a pretty decent mileage log. That's a pretty decent mileage log. So you'd probably on these days also want to put your beginning and ending odometer on those days. But that's the simplest way to do a mileage log. The other let me show you some other mileage logs here. Okay, so I've got this one that I created. Here's an example. It's got the start, the beginning odometer, ending odometer for each day. It's a type of vehicle, and then this calculates automatically. And then here you're going to put business or personal. So this is the example. I actually changed it a little bit over here. So again, here, let's just say my mileage at the beginning was 200,000. And then let's say I drove 50 miles that day. So 200,000, 50 miles. So, okay, my mileage is going to be, 50 miles for the day. And then here I'm going to put, okay, is this personal, business, real estate related, or commuting? Really, I'm going to put it in one of these. Commuting is personal, but we break it out separately. Again, if you put personal, it doesn't bother me so much if you confound personal and commuting. Key is getting the business, and then the other stuff. Business and personal are the 2 main ones you want to track. And here you're going to write the purpose. Like going to go visit Bill, right? Or whatever. So this is one mileage log. This is one I created. Another one that I did not create, that I can send to you and I have access to, is this one. It keeps it by a month. This one is quite a bit. It's got 3 different vehicles. Okay, this stands for you can put an amount of miles in there. Just type it right in under this method. This is if you've got business. This is if you have rental real estate. This is other investments, personal, and commuting. So this one he's tracking more. For up to 3 vehicles. And then if you've got other vehicle expenses, parking, these other different things. Again, I'm most concerned with the mileage. And then it goes to these different tabs, and then at the end of the year, it adds it up for you. And then it calculates your business expense percentage versus your personal expense. So percentage. So this one is, this one also works just fine. Okay, but notice this one's not doing odometer. It's just doing the total mileage. So, it's missing some of these, components we might want to see. Another one that I did not create, but I can send to you. Again, this is if you had to print this out, you'd be using this as kind of like your calendaring, to-do list today. Here are my appointments for the day. You're going to put your appointment, total mileage, and then you're going to put this is business or personal. Here are the different types of how ways you can categorize it. Again, business, real estate related, investment related, personal, or commuting. And then Here, this is for the day. You'd say, beginning odometer of the day, ending odometer for the day, and then total miles for the day, including all personal and business. And then you can track some of these other expenses as well. So this one is definitely the most onerous, but it's the most meticulous. And then again, for most people, honestly, they're probably going to use something like either just the calendar that I explained earlier, or they're going to choose to use Mile IQ or another app. Now, what I will say about the apps is, I recommend that you consider getting one that you're going to pay for. I mean, a lot of people use Mile IQ. I've heard of several others that seem to work just fine. I'm more concerned with people using the free ones, because I've seen, business owners track a lot of mileage on those, and the app developer wasn't making any money. And so they just stopped servicing the app, and the person's mileage disappeared altogether. And, if you've tracked 27,000 miles and have your whole mileage log disappear, you're going to feel pretty frustrated, right? So it's like $3 to $5 a month or whatever to track it that way. And it's a business expense, whoever software you're paying for. Okay, so usually those apps are as simple as, okay, I'm going to swipe left or right, business versus personal, business or personal, and that's fine. And if you can, again, you're going to want to show the IRS you've got some corroborating evidence, not just swiping back and forth. They're going to want to see, copies of repair receipts. If you have oil change records. They're trying to show that, hey, this date on this record from this third party who gave you the oil change, that's matching your odometer that you're giving me on your mileage log. And if they don't match up, then the IRS is going to take away your whole mileage deduction, or they could, right? So again, these are some of the things you're going to want to keep. You're going to want this is what we're talking about here mostly, is the mileage log book. And then, if you have an appointment book, your Outlook calendar, these are the things you're going to have to send to the IRS if they're auditing you on this point. And okay, so do you have to keep a mileage log every day? Possibly, but possibly not, right? So if you have a business that's not seasonal, it's not cyclical, it's pretty well the same each day, then you can do a 3-month sampling, right? So you can keep really good records for 3 months, and then send that to me. We multiply it by 4. Basically we extrapolate based on 3 months the total mileage for the year. So really good records for 3 months. The rest of the year we use an estimate. Okay. You're going to be like, what? You're backtracking, Jason. Well, can I use mileage estimates? And the answer is yes for this. That's the only case, what I just explained. But otherwise, absolutely not. Some people, it's like, I know this whole thing gets to sound a little onerous, but that's why we try to keep it as simple as possible while maintaining as good a record as we possibly can. And from my perspective, if you're doing a pretty good job of it, taking a few minutes or like using just the Mile app, and if it seems reasonable given what your business is, and you're backing out that personal component, I don't see the IRS giving you a lot of trouble with this. It's people when they are super aggressive saying, okay, here's my total mileage for the year, and it's all business, no personal. Or when they're keeping really shoddy records, like here's my beginning odometer, here's my ending odometer, and they're not keeping any of this information in between, that's when the IRS comes in, and I think they're more like, they're likely to, take away some of your mileage or all of it. And technically they can, what they can do and what they actually do, it's two different things, of course. So can you use estimates? No, because the IRS does not allow the use of estimates. Let's say, okay, I drove, 20 miles. I think I drove about 20 miles to this work site today, and I drove, about 20 miles back. They're not going to use that. So if everything is rounded off to the nearest, mile every single time, and if it always looks like 5, rounded off to the nearest 5 or whatever, it's not going to pass IRS muster. So they could disallow your entire mileage log. Okay, so again, I have these sample mileage logs. You're welcome to reach out to me, and I'd send those to you happily. And uh, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, on this, feel free to reach out, and we can chat about it. The goal is make sure you get your vehicle business, your business vehicle expense being reasonable. And this, just bear in mind that this is kind of a red flag area for the IRS. If the mileage you claim is too large, if the actual expense you claim is too large in relation to your business income, then you're just kind of, putting a red flag on your back and saying, hey, come on at me. And this is where the IRS feels like they can get a lot of bang for their buck, is on these vehicle expenses. So with that in mind, good luck on creating your mileage log. And again, reach out if you have any questions.